And welcome to Betting with Brooke and Benny here at FTN Bets on the FTN Network. We have a very exciting slate of NFL games this weekend. There are 14 games overall, four teams on bye, one game on Thursday, one game on Sunday, one game on Monday, which, if my math is correct, which it usually is, I think that leaves us with 11 games on Sunday and the 1 and 4 o'clock windows to talk about here. But before we start talking about them, let me bring in my talented co host, Brooke Kromer. What's going on this morning?
How are you? It is a beautiful day in Florida, and I heard you're coming my way soon. So, welcome to it because the weather is great. The football, not so great. We're going to get into that a little bit. I'd say we're half and half in Florida, a little bit. I think the Bucks count for two games down here. So, how are you today?
I'm good. I mean, I am. I told you guys I'm going to be packing as soon as we're done here with the show because I am flying down to Florida. DraftKings King of the Beach live finals this weekend, so I will be in Hollywood Beach over in the Miami area, if I understand that correctly. You're the Florida girl here, so you got to make sure on that. I'm not 100% positive, but
Yep.
yeah, it should be fun. A lot of stuff going on. I got a chance to win a bunch of money on Sunday. So we got to talk about some of these games, so I know what the hell I'm doing here and which guys I'm playing, which guys I'm avoiding, and what situations we got to try to take advantage of. So speaking of a game that I need to figure out so that we can take advantage of, let's start right off the top with our producer Tino's favorite team, the New York Giants here, taking on the Miami Dolphins in a game that opened at a 2.5 number. It's now up to a 4.5 number, and the big move is because Daniel Jones is going to be out for this game and maybe even out for the season, which means we're going to have Mike Glennon at quarterback for the New York Giants. So, Brooke, I got a lot of money on the line this week. Am I just going all in on the Miami Dolphin defense here with Mike Glennon?
Oh, I I mean, and there's even more injuries than that, right? We have no word on the
Mm-hmm.
injuries to the Giants wide receivers Sterling Shepard, Kadarius Toney, tight ends Kyle Rudolph, Caden Smith, and then we find out Daniel Jones is out due to a neck injury. I just think it's so ironic that Mike Glennon is taking over during his neck injury. Most of y'all are going to get that joke. If you don't, look up Mike Glennon's picture. You will. You will thank me later because it is so great. But I don't know. I think this Giants defense is really who stood out in week 12. They recorded four turnovers. They gave a new light to the offense right after they fired their offensive coordinator. But now we're without God knows how many players. I mean, they haven't even released it yet who's actually going to play and who's not. Earlier in the week, I did say take the Giants. I was thinking that Tino was going to be really happy with me today because I was going to continue with that. Then I got the news last night that Daniel Jones is out, and I don't think I'm betting on Mike Glendon Day. I think I will definitely be taking the Dolphins now with all the Giants injuries. You know, you just don't know. But I think the Daniel Jones injury it was the icing on the cake to switch over to the Dolphins side this week.
Yeah, I was actually on the Dolphins because it was under a field goal. So I said, hey, if it's under a field goal, I think I'd rather be on the Dolphins side. It's over a field goal now at 4.5, but we also have to kind of reconsider everything and recalibrate everything. I listen. I don't think Daniel Jones is a great quarterback, but I also don't think he's the worst one in the league. I think he's worth more to a spread than the 2 point difference between him and Mike Glennon. So the fact that the spread only moved 2 points so far, it still kind of has me wanting the Miami side of this game here. I think there's a bigger chance that Miami kind of runs away with this game right now. And even if it is close, I mean, 4.5 points, it's not great. I don't love it here, but I got to say, I think the Miami side is the side I want to be on here as well. Sorry, Tino, but you know what? At this point,
Sorry.
if you're not going to have Daniel Jones for the rest of the year and with all the injuries to
Oh,
wide receiver, you might as well just take the top draft picks here because I did see a graphic this morning that if the NFL season ended today, actually the Jets, the Giants, and the Philadelphia Eagles, because of trades, would all have two picks in the top 10 of the draft this year, which would be pretty interesting if that's the way that it works out. So the good news is the teams in the Northeast up here, we're probably all going to be better in a couple of years. But right now, we all kind of
hopefully.
think. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. So let's talk about the next game here. This is one that I think is going to be a really good game. Also expected to be pretty highly owned in the DraftKings final, and that is the Los Angeles Chargers taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. This game opened at Cincinnati -3, moved up a little bit, Cincinnati -3.5 right now. So you lose the protection of the field goal, but in the overall scheme of things, it's not a massive move on the line right here. But it does mean that the money's coming in on the Bengals side. You agree that that's the side the money should be coming in on, or do you think the Chargers can, pull off a quote unquote upset here, although it won't be a very shocking one?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. The Bengals, I think they take home this victory. These are two teams that are very interesting to me. LA lost to Denver as 3-point favorites last week. Their run game was completely shut down to only 72 yards. Quarterback Justin Herbert threw 2 interceptions. It's just a really confusing team to me because I was so hyped on them in the beginning of the season. And I feel like they're kind of falling apart in a way. And I just didn't see that happening this year, especially with Justin Herbert and how he was playing. But then you have the Bengals beating up on the Steelers 41-10. I'm sure that felt amazing as their longtime rivals. And now you have the Chargers taking on the Bengals, and Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow have never met before. So this is a battle between the 2020 draft quarterbacks. I think it'll be fun to watch. The Bengals offense has been rolling. They scored 30 plus points in the last 2 weeks. And then lucky for them, Joe Mixon just hit a career high in rushing yards, and the Chargers are the NFL's worst rush defense. On top of that, the kickoff is set at 1 p.m., which never favors a West Coast team. I would know as a Rams fan, it is such a struggle. And for LA, Austin Eckler has been carrying the offense for the last 2 weeks, and the Bengals have shown they can handle versatile running backs. So I think this is going to be a fun one. I'm really excited for this matchup, but I do think the Bengals take home this victory by 7.
Yeah, Cincinnati's offense has looked absolutely amazing lately, and I do think this is going to be a monster Joe Mixon game. I mean, the Chargers basically have the defensive strategy of we're going to take away the pass, and if you want to run it down our throats, we're going to let you run it down our throats. And it's not. I don't think it's so much that they're a bad run defense. It's like that's literally their team defensive philosophy is, we'll let you have 3 or 4 yards at a time if you want it. We're not going to give up the big plays though. We're going to stop you from that. So could be a tough game for guys like Jamar Chase and even Joe Burrow. Like he's probably not going to be able to get, a lot of the downfield passes that they're used to guys like, Chase and Higgins and even Tyler Boyd in there. But I do think Mixon is going to keep running wild here. I think Cincinnati wins this game. The Chargers are that team that may end up with like 10 guys who make the Pro Bowl and they're going to finish like 500. And it's inexplicable. I don't know why it is. Maybe there's just some things that they need to get fixed. But I feel like this is a team that every week we expect more out of them because of the talent there is a lot of talent on this team, like, on the offensive side, on the defensive side, but it just seems like they haven't been able to put it together here. So I'm with you. I'm on the Cincinnati side of this game. I'd rather have taken it earlier in the week at -3, but even at -3.5, I'm still comfortable laying that one. So let's talk about the next game here, the Washington Redskins against the Las Vegas Raiders. And I do have to say about this game before we start, when we ran our FTN giveaway the other day, this is the game that we gave away the tickets to. So one of our FTN subs is going to be sitting on the 50-yard line here, Washington and Las Vegas game from Las Vegas. I was going to go out there and hang out myself, but I'm going to be in Florida this weekend. So, I decided to go south instead of west, but that should be a good time for the people who won that. So congratulations to them. Hopefully they enjoy a pretty good game here. The line hasn't really moved all that much. It opened at 2.5 and it moved to 2.5 -115, which means that there was a little bit of money coming in on the Las Vegas Raiders side, but not enough to move it to 3 at this point. So do you agree that the Raiders are the side that you want to be on in this game? Or I think I said the Redskins, even though they're the Washington football team now. Or would you rather have the Washington football team side?
Well, after the performance Washington put on versus the Seahawks on Monday night, I do have a bit more belief in this team, and that is definitely going into this pick. Taylor Heineke spread the ball around with ease to J.D. McKissick. I don't know why I struggled to say his name, who became a red zone go-to guy, and then DeAndre Carter, who emerged as a key down target. And then on top of that, they got the run game going with Antonio Gibson and stayed strong through a tough last 2 minutes with Russell Wilson finally snapping back into his old self. All in all, this team came together under primetime lights, and now I don't even know what to think of them as a whole, but they have me hyped up, and now they're going to be taking on the Raiders, who are averaging 296.5 yards through the air this year per game, and then they're the second most in the NFL. They'll be going up against the Washington defense that can't stop the pass, as we saw in those last 2 minutes was a struggle. And then Washington is 0-4 against AFC teams this year. So I just feel like there's not much going towards them, but I do think this is the game they could snap that losing streak against the AFC. I'm taking Washington football team to upset the Raiders at home even though they're on a short week, I think they keep their momentum going, somehow pull off another exciting win, and they're back in the wild card hunt. So they have to win this game. So I think they pull it off. I think it'll be fun too.
Yeah, in the power rankings this week, I basically said that the Las Vegas Raiders are one of the toughest teams for me to rank because they can go out and do something like beat the Dallas Cowboys, and then they could come back and lose to a team that you're like, how did they lose to that team right now? So they are like the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde team of the NFL this year, where on any given Sunday is a saying for a reason. On any given Sunday, they can go out there and beat anybody if they play well. And on any given Sunday, they can go out there and lose to the worst team in the league if they don't play well. And, it's just been the problem with the Raiders all year long is that they're kind of inconsistent. They don't really have an identity. Like they want to be a run team. The defense was okay earlier in the year. Now we're starting to see some chinks in the armor. Like even that Dallas game, they wound up winning, but they gave up 33 points in that game. So it's not like the defense really did all that much to kind of shut down the Dallas offense here. So yeah, I think I'm kind of with you. I think I'm on the Washington side of this game, but honestly, I don't have a strong opinion on it either way. So if I'm picking in like an office pool, I'd probably take Washington, but putting my hard-earned dollars down, there are much better places for us to bet on this week. So I'm avoiding this game altogether as one of the games that I'm betting on, which just remind me, I have to get my bets in before I get on a plane because you're not allowed to bet in Florida, which kind of sucks, but you know what? Whatever. So anyway, just another thing I got on my to-do list here today. All right, so let's talk about the next game here, which is the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This game opened at -2.5, and it jumped all the way up to -4.5 presently. So what are you looking at here with the Ravens game? Do you think the Ravens just absolutely crush Pittsburgh here, or do you think Pittsburgh can keep it under 4.5 and actually cover in this one?
I'm liking the Ravens in this game. Ben Roethlisberger is just a wild card to me. He looked atrocious against the Bengals last week. And prior to that, he looked like he was getting a bit of a rhythm back. So he's kind of just, he's there or he's not. But the Ravens offense hardly looked convincing either. Lamar Jackson threw a career high 4 interceptions on Sunday night versus the Browns. This has the feeling of a low scoring defensive game, so I'm taking the under in this one. I do believe this Ravens offense will be able to cut through the Steelers defense that is one of the worst in the NFL against the run, and that just happens to be the Ravens specialty. They are arguably one of the most explosive rushing attacks in the league. So I think it's safe to say the Ravens will win this game. I actually think this line is a bit low. I think the Ravens will win by like 10, and the Steelers don't see much of the end zone at all.
I like that alternate line on this game at around 9.5 or 10. You could probably get for, I don't know, maybe like plus 200 or so. I'd have to go check on that. My biggest concern here with the Ravens, and we've talked about this before, Tino and I talked about it on our show too, is like the Ravens are the team that does just enough to win football games. Like, I think they're like 5-6 against the spread. So like there's a lot of games that they play where, you think they should win by a touchdown or more, and it's like tied up or, they're down 2 with like 14 seconds left, and Lamar Jackson drives them 60 yards up the field, and Tucker kicks like a 60-yard field goal. Like that's the way this team has played. They play ugly football games. They keep the games close, but they have some playmakers that tend to make the big plays for them at the end of games when they really need to. So I think Baltimore wins this game, but I don't want to lay 4.5 points with Baltimore just because, and maybe this is just me, like, my biases from other, shocking losses I've had that the Ravens should have covered earlier this year. But, this is a team that I just don't have a lot of faith in against the spread. I don't want to lay a lot of points with them. I'll take Baltimore as an underdog. I'll take Baltimore when it's like -1 or -2. Laying 4.5 with Baltimore, it just feels like I'm going to be sitting there while they're like driving for the game-winning field goal to win by 3, and I'm going to be like, great, they won and I lost, and I just don't want to put myself in that situation. So I'm avoiding this game as well, but I do think the Baltimore Ravens wind up winning it. So the last game we're going to talk about here, the San Francisco 49ers against the Seattle Seahawks. A little bit of injury news in this game. It looks like Deebo Samuels is going to be out for at least a week or two. He went down awkwardly on like an end around in the last game. I don't even know if he had a catch in the last game, but he had like almost 100 yards rushing. They were using him as a running back. They were using him, and not just on like end arounds and stuff like that. Like they were actually had him in the backfield, like set up as a running back in that game as well. And he looked pretty good doing it while he was out there. So I think that's going to be a big loss for this team. But I do think that San Francisco still has the firepower to get it done. It opened with San Francisco as a -2.5. Right now, it's up to San Francisco as a -3.5, which is a big move because whenever you cross that -3, books don't like to do that because now they're opening themselves up to San Francisco winning this game by a field goal, and then they got to pay out people on both sides of that bet, which is not something that books like to do at all. So you can get a middle here if you got down earlier in the week. Do you think that's a good idea, Brooke, or are you on the Seattle side of this game?
I'm more excited just about the storylines, I think. In the first meeting between these two divisional rivals, the Seahawks handed the 49ers their second loss in what would lead to be a 4-game losing streak. And now heading into week 13, San Fran has the chance to return a similar favor with the hopes of killing any chances the Seahawks have at getting into any of the playoffs, which I'm loving as a Rams fan to see the 49ers at least beat up the Seahawks, because the Seahawks, I think I hate a little bit more. And the 49ers are fresh off of a big win over the Vikings. They moved up into the 6th seed of the NFC playoff picture. That scares me a bit. But Seattle's hoping to have their old Russell Wilson back, because he did not look great on Monday night. He showed a bit of the old Russ in the final 2 minutes, but before that, he was stumbling all over the field. I was going to take the 49ers in this game prior to Monday night, but after that performance, I'm definitely taking San Fran in this game. The Seahawks' only real chance, I think, is if they can limit the 49ers' run game and force Jimmy G to take the game into his own hands. Their run defense just has improved a little bit in the recent weeks, but didn't look great Monday, so I doubt that happens Sunday. But who knows? I think that the 49ers definitely win this by 7.
Yeah, I mean, my problem right now is that, Russ is a warrior and he wanted to get back out on the field, and you got to give him all the credit in the world for that, but he shouldn't be on the field. Like, you could tell a couple of the passes he made in the first quarter of that game, he sailed them over people's heads. Like, he's still not comfortable throwing the ball with that finger. Even some of the big plays they had down the field, like, they weren't the pinpoint accurate throws that you expect from Russell Wilson. It was kind of just like, I'm just going to lay this duck up there and hope that my receivers can run down and make a play on it, which, again, he's got very good wide receivers. So they actually went out there and did that. But I'm with you. I'm on the San Francisco 49ers side of this game. I'm on the San Francisco side for a selfish reason, though. The Jets actually own Seattle's first round pick here. So I want that pick to be as high as possible for my New York Jets. So I need everybody to beat up on Seattle from now until the end of the year. Maybe we could get maybe we could get the number 2 pick again and draft another quarterback who's going to suck, because that's kind of what we do as the Jets. So anyway, that wraps it up for the games that we want to talk about here. Brooke, let everybody know where they can find you on social media.
Find me on Instagram, on Twitter, at Brooke Kromer. Give me a follow. Let's talk some football. I love talking on Twitter with the fans. So hit us up.
Yeah, and you can find me on Twitter at BennyR11. Remember, if you guys are watching this over on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, drop some comments down there. Brooke and I come in throughout the week and we'll check on the comments. We like interacting with the fans. We want to hear who you guys are on. We want to hear who you agree with that we're on. We want to hear who you disagree with that we're on and why we're wrong. That's half the fun of this as well. We do our analysis. Other people do. There needs to be people on both sides of a betting market in order for there to be a betting market. Otherwise, the spreads on all these games would be minus 100 and nobody would ever get down on it. So, it's good to have a little bit of disagreement here. So for Brooke Kromer, this is Benny Ricciardi signing off for Betting with Brooke and Benny on FTN Bets. Good luck this week, everybody.